There's evidence.
The human race. Could formal disclosure about extraterrestrials take place during the Obama administration? This and more will be covered at X Conference 2010 at the National Press Club, 2 blocks from the White House and 12 blocks from the Capitol. The conference will include lectures, an awards banquet, a speaker's cocktail party, and, oh yes, a special luncheon presentation with yours truly. Come learn why, when it comes to UFOs, it's no longer just about lights in the sky. It's about lies on the ground. The National Press Club is just 2 blocks from Metro Center, and there are 24 hotels nearby. The event website, x-conference.com. That's x-conference.com, or call the Paradigm Research Group, 202-215-8344. That's 202-215-8344.
Welcome to Eye to the Sky, the UFO Synopsis. Now here's your host, Andrew.
And welcome to Eye to the Sky, the UFO Synopsis, here in the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, also broadcast live on UPRN 105.5 New Orleans. I'm your host, Andrew, and tonight my guest will be ICAR International Director, Joe Montaldo. I'd like to remind everyone that you can listen to the UFO Paranormal Radio Network on your cell phone simply by dialing 704-631-4060 and entering the 4-digit station ID code 2899. Joe Montaldo is the International Director for the International Community for Alien Research, and he has been researching the abduction and contact phenomenon for over 25 years. Joe is the owner and operator of the UFO Paranormal Radio Network. He hosts his own radio program on Wednesday evenings called UFO Undercover. Joe recently spoke at a conference at Watertown, New Jersey, and Joe and ICAR's research has been the focus of many interviews and articles over the past year. As the National Director for ICAR, I have known Joe for many years now. It's been quite a while since I've had Joe on the program, and I felt it was time to have him back on to talk about current events and investigations. I am pleased once again to welcome my friend and colleague, Joe Montaldo, back to the program as my guest this evening. And welcome back, Joe.
Well, thank you for the introduction, a warm introduction, Dee. And you know I love coming on your show. So, guys, when I come and visit Dee, it's kind of just for the old-timers who have been knowing about ICAR for a long time and the UFO Alien Phenomena Group, you'll understand we used to actually sit, and I mean for hours, and I'm not talking an hour or two like a radio show. I'm talking whole days, sometimes whole weekends just spent talking about these things. Let me see. I see somebody said I need to be louder, so let me see if we can adjust this a little bit here. All right, guys, is that any better? That good? Sound pretty? All right, good there. Not good. I was just making sure. I know last night we had some crappy audio. I wanted to bring up that right away. Hopefully we don't have those audio problems anymore. I'm not sure what was going on last night. Yeah, I know it sounded like we were being invaded via the airwaves last night. Anybody who listens to that archive, I apologize, but there's nothing I can do for it. It's a sad state of affairs. Now, I know Dee and I were talking, too, just before she introduced me, about AJ's show last night, which you noticed she had a packed house on in the room last night. It was packed up in here.
Oh, yes. I was telling her, go for the throat Angela, when she was going off on Ken Cherry. With some of my dealings with trying to get him on my program and the way he and his wife both treated me, it was like, okay, if you're going to be rude, then forget you. I don't want you on my program.
And I don't blame you. I mean, because stuff like that, you should never have to deal with that. I mean, either these shows are all popular now. Your show's been on, 3 years now? It might be longer than that. Hell. It's the shows do well. You got good listening audience. Last time I checked, your mainstay is in the 80s somewhere and growing every week. So all I can see is anybody not wanting to come on. It either has to be something personal or they're just ignorant and have no idea what audience they just gave up. I don't know anybody yet that's actually refused to be on a network. The only person I know, I think, that's eluded everybody so far is... well, let's just say he's a movie star. He's a writer, actually. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, you mean Ackwood?
No, Whitley.
Oh.
Whitley's
okay.
managed to... As far as I know, he hasn't been on anybody's show. Other than that, pretty much everybody who's anybody that we're interested in has been on the network in one shape, form, or fashion or another.
Well, and I have to kind of, do a pat myself on the back thing here. I have actually gotten a guest on my program that Coast to Coast has begged repeatedly to be on their program, and he has repeatedly refused. And that's, darn, now I can't think of his name. I hate that when I know it, and when I go to talk about the person and forget the name. He's with NICAP, or NARCAP rather. Help me out, David.
Now I know. I can see who you're talking about for the life of me. Oh, guys, come on, y'all pay attention in the room. Y'all know who we're talking about.
Ted Rowe, that's the right name? Yeah, Ted Rowe from NARCAP, rather. And he went and checked my website out before he even agreed to be on the program, and he went through my past guest list and was very impressed with it, I guess, and said, well, sure, I'll do it. So yeah, we can then claim some one-upmanship of Coast to Coast.
Oh, I know that. I mean, I've seen when I was talking, when I was in D.C. last year for the S conference, and I was doing the Coast to Coast interview at the WMLL studios. I was talking with him, and as a network, as a variety of shows, we've probably got more exclusives in the last 2 years than Coast did. And there's a reason, I'm sure there's reasons why, because somebody said, well, Coast got a bigger audience. Well, Coast does have a big audience. Nobody's going to argue that fact. I mean, they're doing 4 million people a show. I mean, that's a big audience. But it's not as targeted as our audiences are. When your show's on, you have a specific targeted audience. I mean, you really are nuts and bolts ufologists, and that audience of 80 to 100,000 listeners is really in that category. There may be some swayers back and forth into other stuff, but it's a real solid audience. So particularly ufologists especially are going to want to target that audience. And we have really good targeted audience. And that, and the fact of the matter is we have a 77-minute average listening time. As far as I know, that is the highest average listening time of any radio show anywhere, period. It amazes me when I see that. It just amazes me that people just sit and sometimes there's audio problems, sometimes there's other problems. They come on. We're doing, we got ungodly amounts of downloads now. People are downloading the shows all over. I think the worst shows do 1,000 downloads in a week. It's out of control, but it tells you the interest in this. And it would tell you anybody who doesn't want to come on one of the shows in the network really hasn't done their homework. That's what it comes down to. But, it was like Clifford Cliff refusing everybody he wanted to do my show first. Now, there was no reason for that. I mean, I have 1 million listeners, but, that's spread out across, 134 countries. And when people hear you say that, about it, audience, oh, huge. No. See, Coast to Coast is different. They have 4 million, probably 3.5 million of them are U.S. listeners. That's in the United States. Our audiences, everybody's audiences on our network, at least half of them are outside the United States. It's going to vary from show to show who's going to have more inside, who's going to have more outside. Like, I carry a heavy Australian, British, European, Chinese audience, probably 60-65%. The other 30% is probably U.S., and the other 5% is probably split between Mexico and Canada. And then I've got a bunch of little, countries, or not little countries, but other countries with small listening audiences. Yours is a little different. I think you're more 50% in the U.S. And then it flip-flops. Some of the other shows, like, should I say the crazy man's name, Paul Richard Price, he's got a 77% U.S.-based audience. I don't know who's listening, but because he's crazy, by the way. Paul, if you're listening, I think you're crazy. I love you, man, but you're crazy. And here's one for y'all, D. Until just recently, you had the second place download of all time. I got the first one with Bill McDonald. That was just an insane download that day. I don't know what was up with that. But that show he did where the guy came on that's talking about suing Obama, or the lawyer that is actually suing Obama over his birth certificate, I think he did 16,000 downloads in an afternoon or something, over 2 days or something.
Wow.
It was insane. And by the way, when you hear me talking about downloads with D, that's downloads. That's not plays. Okay? Plays are much different. That's a whole other different set of numbers. And in the internet radio stations, it's a much different beast because, frankly, we have the downloads, and then we have the plays, and then we have the live broadcast. So, like, let's look at this from a different point of view. Say D does 85,000 listeners tonight. Okay? All right. Well, then she's going to probably get another 5 or 10,000, 15,000 downloads, and probably that plays. So that jumps her audience up to about 130, and then that doesn't count the cell phone listeners, the cell phone downloaders, or the people who listen to us on FM radio locally. So
I have another thing I'd like to point out, too. I'm finding an interesting trend lately on visits to the website. We're seeing a lot of hits from colleges, public schools, industry. Boeing is one of them.
Yeah.
And you know, and then again from all over the planet, basically, Africa, Asia, all over Europe, Croatia. I mean, just all over.
Yeah, I know it's insane. It gets insane, and I have been seeing a steady increase for at least the last 8 months. I've been seeing a steady increase. It's nice. You know, it's subtle. It's about 2%, maybe 3%, but it's every week, and it's every week. We haven't had a backward slide since Halloween of last year, which is expected. The holidays, we're supposed to backslide because, frankly, everybody's off holiday, you know, and a lot of our shows are reruns that time of the year. Not always, but a lot of them are reruns that time of year. And but come to find out, our New Year's, originally the station's New Year's shows were always low, but the last 2 years, because the way it's been falling out, and the way the shows have been falling out, those are some of the most listened to shows. The ones like 1 and 2 weeks before the end of the year, and the ones 1 and 2 weeks after the end of the year. Those are some of the most listened to shows on the network. I guess because we're winding up the years and bringing up the New Year's, and all the hosts have different takes on it. That's another thing about this network that's really good, is the variety of hosts we have. You can have the same. I'll give you an example. I forgot who it was. Maybe it was Steven. There was 1 week Steven was actually on, I think, 9 shows.
Oh, yes. That was when he was starting to push the Million Facts on Washington program he had going.
And I listened to all 9 shows because, you know, I'm back here pushing the buttons, but even though Steven was pushing the same thing, it still managed to be entertaining because each host has their own style and their own way of interviewing people. So that was kind of fun to watch how that worked. That really was. But AJ, I just never heard AJ get fired up before. I was like, AJ, just kick some. You know what, girl?
I was, like I said, I was going, go for the throat, Angela, go for the throat, you know.
I sent her instant message, G-rated, remember.
Well, yeah. But anyway, to get back to ufology in general, you spoke at this recent conference in New Jersey, and from what I'm hearing, you were like the feature speaker?
It kind of worked out. I guess I wasn't paying attention on the thing. I did 2 hours Sunday on types of aliens. I mean on Saturday, and then I did 2 hours on Sunday. But I didn't realize until I was talking with Pat just before George showed up. I was talking with Pat, and Pat was going over it. He said, "No, you're the new guy. You're. That's why we got you 2 hours each day because you're technically the featured speaker." And I'm like, "You could have told me that, man, because I might have pushed it a little harder across the network." But actually, these guys, because you know a lot of the material there, I'm not real happy with. Some of the stuff there I like, and y'all know how I am. It doesn't matter what conference I go to. I'm always going to have things I just don't like about conferences, and I'm always going to have things I like. Now, I will tell you, I would go back to the conference. I had a lot of fun, and I had a good time. But, you know, one of the things I was doing, and I was directing at this. Oh, I know you were, Lily. I know you were. But, you know, I was directing at, like Karen, Pat's daughter, was talking about her, because she was running some abduction groups while we were there, which I didn't get a chance to attend. But she was running these abduction groups over there, and she was, Nicolette was speaking, and I was happened to be sitting there, and, no, not Nicolette was speaking, what's his name was speaking? Damn, I can't think of his name. He's crazy as hell, by the way. I'll remember his name. But anyway, he's speaking. He's going on. I'm listening to him talking about alien abductions, and I was like, "Oh, dude, what are you smoking, please?" But you know, I was playing nice because I'm a speaker, and you know, being a speaker, I'm not going to go give the other speakers a hard time. Now, if I would have been there as a guest, that would have been an entirely different thing. So I'm like, okay, play nice, Joe, play nice. So when I got to come up and lecture, I instantly just had to correct some stuff. And Karen was telling me about how she stopped her alien abductions. And anybody who's listened to me more than one time knows how I feel about you stopping your alien abduction. So I asked her in front of the whole, I said, what do you think if the government came to abduct you could stop them from doing it? She was, well, like, no. I'm like, so why the hell do you think you can stop your alien abductions? So I told her I wanted to get with her and show her why ICAR does the way things they're doing, the way we do certain things that we do when it comes to hypnosis and things like that. And I told her, I said, what happens is, as I said, if you fight and gripe and scream and bitch enough, I said, yeah, they'll probably just mask the memories so that you won't remember anymore. And that way you're actually less trouble for them, because if you're not remembering, you're not even putting up a fight. You're just knocking you out, taking you to one, and dropping you back off. I said, and then, you know, they sometimes they want you to be useful for things. I said, so if that's the case and you're getting downloads, I said, you're not going to get downloads without abductions. I said, they may be further apart and more spread out, because, you know, I think she's in her 30s now, which is about where the experiences start to change significantly. She's going, technically I would say classify her as going through the awakening stage of the abduction. So she's kind of flip-flopping back and forth. And after she talked to me for a while, she realized I was probably right. They probably hadn't stopped. But these were the kind of things I was hearing there, and you know I have to correct that crap. I'm like, no. And then I had to do this. To all my peace-loving life friends in the universe with your pretty little blonde-haired aliens, I broke out the Egyptian hieroglyphs to prove that was a completely false and misnomer of a description of these aliens. I did. I broke it out, and I got into detail about it. I said, oh, no, there's enough of this peace-loving like crap. I can't take it anymore. And,
well, you know, that's kind of going along with this book that I'm currently reading by Graham Hancock called Supernatural. He's comparing the hallucinations of shamans to alien abductions. I mean, he goes through and say, oh, okay, the shamans see this and abductees claim this, and the shamans see this and abductees claim that, you know, point for point. And it's like, wait a minute, hallucinations, I mean, not just abductions, but UFOs as well. And I'm going, wait a minute. Hallucinations don't leave marks on your body. Hallucinations don't land on the ground and leave trace cases or trace evidence. Hallucinations aren't picked up on radar, and the list goes on. So what do you say to somebody that thinks that abductees and UFO witnesses are having a natural overproduction of the chemical that all these shamans take to induce these hallucinations?
I tell them, come on down to Gulf Breeze and let's see how brave you really are. I'm sorry, I'll be nice. I would. I'd tell them, come on down. You know, there are places. I was talking with this about Linda earlier today. It's something I've been working on, and something I'll probably introduce with you in a couple of weeks, because I'd like to talk to you about it before we make it completely public. But there's some stuff I've been noticing over the last 2 years, especially with the new amount. Because, you know, our abduction cases have, like, tripled in the last. Not only are our abduction cases, but the amount of attention that the organization is getting is tripled or almost quadrupled in the last year. So we're getting a big influx of information. And then, you know, November did the Great Questionnaire thing, which I'm dying to see the book. I haven't seen it. Everybody's seen it but me, so I'm waiting to see.
Well, I haven't seen it yet either. So
I haven't had a heart to tell her. I got another 60 things that came in that I sit and file for, but I'll let her get finished with what she's doing before I send her those. I think I'll give it like a total of over 100 that came in. But anyway, make a long story short, we're getting all this enormous amount of attention, all this enormous amount of data coming in, and we always knew there was hot spots around the United States. We knew Gulf Breeze was a hot spot. Gulf Breeze, Navarre, Pensacola, Panama City, all that area down to St. Joe, St. George, all of that is a really hot area for alien abductions and sightings. We know that. We know up around New York and places around New York there's hot spots. We know all along the West Coast. We know where you live is basically a hot spot. And several other places in the country. country. So now that I'm paying a little bit more attention to what's going on sighting-wise, along with what's going on abduction-wise, you can really tell a person now. You can go to this area and these times of the days or these times of the years, and you've got a much, much, much better chance of seeing something. But then I got this other thing that's been bothering me, and I'm not sure how I'm going to get past this. More and more and more, I find out people who have more than one sighting turn out to be contactees. And I don't even know, even a lot of the one-time sighting people have turned out to be contactees. So I'm trying to figure out here, and this is not easy by any means, ladies and gentlemen. At first I thought it was like 50-50. Then I think, man, it's like 80-20, but I'm thinking it's even higher than that now. It seems to me when I really get in and really start talking to someone, hey, I've had a couple of sightings, and I really start asking questions and really start listening for the criteria, I start hearing. I'm like, well, hell. So I'm really thinking that these people that are having multiple sightings, or all of those, I'm pretty sure are contactees. And more of the one-timers, I think, are contactees. So I'm not sure if this isn't like a predisposition for seeing UFOs. In other words, meaning, let's say Dee was taken when she was a child, say 5 years old. But for some reason they decided to block it out all her life. But she would still have sightings because somewhere in there they've been taking her anyway, so she's seen the ship, she's predisposed to see the ship, so it's easier for her mind to register the ship without totally freaking around. I'm not saying it don't freak out some, but it doesn't totally. And that's something else that got me thinking about this, because most people that I meet on an average every day, and please y'all don't take this the wrong way, if they were to see a UFO up close and personal, they would poop themselves, is all I can say, as politely as I can say it, okay? They really would. But yet most of the people I meet that see this, they're embracing this. They're like, oh, yeah, let me just drag this into my life and change my whole entire life and make it part of what I'm doing in my life. And see, that's a much different thing, than much different response than you would think you would get from the average everyday Joe, unless they were a contactee. So I don't know. And guys, this is a work in progress. There's no hard numbers on this. This will be something that will probably be debated and kicked around an organization for a couple of more months, maybe another year or two before it actually becomes a working part of the organization. But still, it's there. And we are starting to see these things. And it's nice now because we got lots of people doing lots of things. And I get to cheat. I don't know how else to explain this. I have all these directors, right? All of them are always sending me stuff, or always telling me stuff, or saying, Joe, did you lose your mind? Which is a good thing too, by the way, because it keeps me from going totally insane. And then there's all these content and Facebook. So everybody listens to me that's on my one of my Facebook friends. I got to tell y'all guys, y'all are great. I mean, I have met more contactees in Facebook in 1 year than I did on Pal Talk in 3, and I met a lot on Pal Talk, guys. I'm not lying.
Well, that's where this. Well, I was going to say that's where this whole iCard group started, but actually we all started back in our old Yahoo days.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
But it grew literally by leaps and bounds when we got out of Yahoo because of the lack of control in the room. Getting room raiders coming in and being rude and nasty and just downright a pain in the neck. And then when we moved here to Pal Talk, where we do have a little more control over it, so we can get rid of the room disruptors, I guess you could call it.
Yeah.
The crazies. But when we did move to Pal, like I said, the contactees, if you pardon the expression, were crawling out of the woodwork.
They were.
And in what you were saying about sightings and whatnot, my first sighting was 15 years ago this month, and my husband David had a sighting just this last Thursday. And, all people have to do is, well, as the show say, keep your eye to the sky.
Keep your eye to the sky. That's a good point. David, I told you about bending over in front of them UFOs, by the way. See, they had to stop and look. I told you. I'm just messing with David, guys. For anybody who's not listening, David is Dee's husband. I'll get an IM from him in a minute. Oh, man. Actually, I've been hearing, and I'm glad you brought that up, by the way, about David, because I've been actually gotten this was weird. You know, I've been listening to this whole Arizona deal coming in, which we're not getting into that tonight, guys. But maybe I'll get you to talk about it another time. But the whole ride back from Jersey, that's all that's on the radio. 13 hours of Arizona and illegal aliens. And you know, the whole time I'm laughing because I'm thinking, y'all want to see some really illegal aliens? Let me see you ask the Gray for his card. Mr. Gray, are you from? Come here, boy. Let me show you where I'm from. I'm gonna show you something. So you know, I got a big kick out of it, but it was weird because I got home, okay, and I had all these emails about all these sightings. And where was it? There was some in Phoenix. It started up around not Sedona. Where did Gia used to live? Scottsdale or something? No. There was some in Scottsdale too, but I know that's out by Phoenix somewhere. Where was she used to live?
I thought she lived somewhere near Winslow.
Yeah, and anyway, I had this weird. It kind of started up on the right top part of Arizona and then just kind of jagged its way down until it hit, say, Phoenix, and then shot across and then down like it was going down towards Mexico. I mean, it was literally like there was like 65 of them. I was like, damn. And one guy made a thing. He said, he goes, you think they're coming to take up for the other illegal aliens? I'm like, it was just kind of strange, but I'm thinking, but I still want to see a cop ask one of them for their papers. Oh, yeah. Or Mr. Reptilian. Mr. Reptilian, pull that saucer over there, sir, and let me see your papers. Yeah, let me disintegrate
let me see your green card.
Yeah, let me see your green card, Mr. Reptilian. He said, you know, Reptilian be thinking, I need a snack, man. He's kind of high in cholesterol, but he'll work. I don't know.
I have a comment to make about this as Rachel Maddow has been calling it, papers, please law. But I'm going to wait until after the break to do it because, you know, I really hate bringing politics into the program, but this is what I want to say. Just I can't sit on it. I got to say it.
Well, no, that's one of the advantages of also having your show. Because when I get aggravated, you know, I'll call Dimmy. Dimmy, I need to borrow your show for a couple hours. Dimmy's like, Joe, what are you doing, man?
I really hate discussing politics, but this is something I've got to get off my chest.
Yeah, because this is one of the things. I've been staying away from it because I don't live out there. And somebody asked me about that just this morning. What do you think of it? I said, I really don't have any thoughts. I said, I don't live in Arizona, guys. I live in Louisiana, where it wouldn't matter what law they passed here.
In Louisiana right now, well, what you guys have got to worry about is all that oil washed up on shore.
That's another effing. Somebody said something. He goes, man, we survived Katrina, we survived Gustav, and now we're going to survive the Blackened Coast. I'm like, well, whatever, we'll make it. Louisiana will always survive. It just all it means for us. And actually, it's worse for y'all than it is for us. If you eat seafood and you were paying like $5 a pound for shrimp, you just figure you're going to pay about $15 a pound for shrimp. Going out for a seafood dinner is going to probably be quite expensive, unless you live way out on the West Coast, because they get there from the Pacific. So you won't see it as a big increase, but it's going to increase all the seafood up quite a bit. And then it will do this, though. It will, I think our unemployment rate's at like 4.4% right now, so it'll probably bring it down to about 2% because they're going to have to put all kind of people to work out there, cleaning up oil, cleaning up birds. And they keep telling me they're going to ignite it, but I still ain't seen it go up in flames yet, so I'm waiting to see.
Well, on the news this morning, they were talking about using some kind of a dispersal agent, which has really got some of the environmentalists even more up in arms.
Yeah, because what's in a dispersal agent? Usually things that disperse oils are some type of soaps or fatty chemicals or something, so is that going to do more damage? You know,
I don't know. Well,
it's a mess.
Okay, we're straying again.
Hey, that's you know, I'm glad you said that though, because I haven't. I'm gonna look and see if there's been any sightings along the Gulf Coast since the oil spill, because you know a lot of times they show up at disasters. So I'm kind of curious.
That is an interesting idea.
Yeah, I'll have to look and see, because that's kind of weird.
I was just wondering, do you get a lot of reports down there from people out on their boats and whatnot, out floating around out there in the Gulf?
Occasionally you get what I call the stray report. Fishermen out there or crew boat or something like that. They'll see something streaking across the sky. Yeah, I haven't had any. I got to be honest. I've gotten some good reports off the coast, like 5-10 miles off the coast. Not even that. Probably about 2 to 5 miles off the coast. But once you go out further than that, you really don't hear about anything. Every now and then you hear about something. Now, I do get these weird reports about, the water's glowing green or the water's glowing white, but they can't see anything. Well, the Gulf does get 3,000 to 4,000 feet deep. So, and at night, if it was glowing, you're not going to see anything but the glow. But there's been several areas, and of course they write that off as bioluminescent, plankton or something like that, something that's swarming, that's making a big. But these guys describe these glowing areas sometimes 300, 400, 500 yards across, so they're big, whatever they are. And and it might be some kind of glowing fish or shrimp or plankton or something. I mean, I really don't know, but you do get a lot of reports of that out there. But it's not like when you hear of a ship driving through, like that protoplankton stuff, where when it turns it up, it makes it glow. See, that leaves a trail, so you can tell that this was like just big, blocks or circles of stuff moving along in the water. And a lot of times they report it as moving at a fair click, but no one's ever seen what I would consider to be a craft. Now, once you get close to the coast, especially right up on the coast, there's literally hundreds of sightings. People, you've got sightings in Pensacola, not Pensacola, in what is that bay over there? Bay St. Louis, which is a deep water channel, semi-deep water channel coming into the back bay. You've got them in Biloxi Bay, you've got them in Mobile Bay, and you've got them in Pensacola Bay. And all of these lead into deep water back channels, so inlets. So what a lot of times you'll hear someone saying they've seen something green, glowing, moving, fast, way faster than anything should be moving underwater, and not leaving a wake. That's what's always bothering me in all of these reports. They don't leave a wake. And see, that should have been UFO criteria for somebody, because that's a significant thing. Anything moving on the water, but close enough to the surface that you could see it, should be pushing a wake up on the surface. Maybe a bubble or a raise of the water around it should be pushing and moving. Because if you can see it, it definitely should be leaving a wake, and it's not. So whatever it is, it's moving on the water, has the ability to move the water around it. It's not actually cutting through the water like our submarines do. Because a submarine close to the surface, you can see it. It's leaving a wake behind it. It's actually leaving a wake in front of it. It's kind of pushing a wake is what it's doing. It's raising up the water. But whatever these are, they don't leave any wake. They don't even really seem to disturb the water. They just and they're going through the water. So that's some kind of craft, but I can't 100% say it's ET. I don't want to say it's ours, but I can't prove that it's ET.
Well, what you just described reminded me of when I was in the Navy. I was stationed at a repair facility there in Norfolk, Virginia. And, we'd get guys off of the ships coming in to our shop to use our equipment to make stuff for their ships or repair stuff and whatnot. So I got a lot of chance to talk with these guys. And I would ask them, hey, you guys see any weird stuff out there? And you would be surprised at how many of these guys would say, well, yeah, here, and they'd say, how long ago? We saw this big bright thing in the water. It was picked up on the sonar, and it went right under the ship and kept on going. That's kind of a general story. But you'd hear a lot of stuff like that from these guys.
Well, you know what? I've heard other things. Well, it's like the guys who said they were at Shag Harbor. The military guys that said they were up at Shag Harbor when they came and picked it up.
Yeah.
Oh, that's something else. While I'm on this is going to make D insane, y'all, who's listening to the show right now. Been working with a group on a new theory for Roswell.
Do what?
Oh, man. There's something been bothering me about Roswell. Roswell's always been bothering me, but something was sticking out in my memory, and I couldn't think of what it was. And then I got to thinking about something about, how they talk about the debris field at Roswell and the little I-beams and stuff, but yet they say there was grays there. Well, I got to thinking about this real hard. Gray ships are seamless, and the way that everybody describes them, there shouldn't be any beams in these ships at all. So I'm thinking there might have been something's just not adding up here. I don't know what this was that crashed or who was involved with it or why the aliens were present when it crashed, but something here is not, 2 and 2 is not making 4. Because I got to thinking about a Graves craft impact, it should have stuck straight into the dirt. It should have been other than that. Might have killed everybody on board, but the ship should have been intact when we retrieved it, because any ship that can fly through space at any decent speed at all, we're not even talking light speed, the quarter light speed, any pebble the size of like your fingernail could rip through it with anything at all. So the hull has to be made out of something that can repel this and have a field around it that can also help repel it. any craft like that impacting into Earth, especially in a place like Roswell, would have just stuck into the dirt. It wouldn't have broke apart. And their technologies are much different than ours, so they wouldn't have broke apart. So I'm wondering what the hell. I got to thinking about something else, and I probably shouldn't say this on air, but it's something Dee can work on for me in the future because she knows way more about Roswell than I do. But we've always talked about the 2 crash sites. And then sometimes I think maybe it was an escape pod, maybe it was this. Well, what happened if we got our hands hold to one of those prototype German saucers and we were flying it, and we ran into, like, a gray saucer? It would have ripped right through us. It might have brought the other saucer down, but it would have ripped right through us. And something made here might have had rods, guys. Don't even take this as anything other than Joe's just running off the mouth here, okay? But it's been bothering me that these debris fields have really been bothering me. I just can't get past that. I don't think a gray ship would have left any kind of debris whatsoever. It's now, if it was a different kind of craft, maybe it was a human, maybe it was a tall white, maybe it was a reptilian. Even aircraft, I don't think are going to break up like that. Not the way that this thing did. It was just too much material scattered out, way entirely too much. That sounded more like when we bring an airplane down, you get these big, large debris fields. It sounds more like that. But it doesn't mean that's what it was by any means. Yeah, I know Kellyanne got on that thing when I was talking with Teresa's friend from France. We were talking about maybe it was an escape pod, or maybe it was a shuttle or something like that, or a cargo ship. And maybe that's why nobody tried to retrieve it, and that's why they let us keep the gray and so on and so forth, because that's another thing. I just can't see Grays leaving any of their people behind unless they want to be here. So I'm thinking this might have been a 50-50 kind of deal. I think the aliens were involved. I really do, but I'm not sure if it's what we all thought it was. But how many witnesses we got left now? Not many.
Not many.
Yeah, not many. So that's one of those things.
To quote Stanton Friedman, we're in a race with the Undertaker. It seems like whenever a new witness comes forward, it finally tells what they know. Within months, they're gone.
And they are. So I've just been kind of. So mostly I leave Roswell alone because it's really not my cup of tea. It's something I like to talk about from time to time. But things like that, because of the abduction research we do, it drags me back to it from time to time. When I come back to it, I'm thinking about, well, why would there have been these types of materials at a gray crash site? I'm thinking this was a replica of some kind, and we crashed the damn thing. But it doesn't mean either the Grays were on board with us or they were right there when it happened. Because for some reason or another, they're involved in this. I'm just not sure if it was actually their physical craft that we crashed. Because they did say there from 1911 to 1913, the Germans built 6 saucer prototypes. All of them operational, by the way, all 6 of them. The most famous one being the black one with the swastikas on the side of it. It looked like a big saucer with a submarine tower on top of it or something. Just think about it, 1911. We can't even build that in 2010.
Personally, I don't put much store into the Nazi Germany UFOs, aerial saucers or anything.
No, there's real documentation
really
for them. Well, no, there's a Smithsonian's planning on displaying one of them. They can prove they all existed. It's just what were they is what the argument's always been, not did they exist. It's never been an argument that they existed because they're well documented. Even in German times, they're well documented. They're fairly well documented in our times. So it's not whether they existed or not. It's actually what were they? Were they some kind of balsa wood model or something? Were they advanced craft that the Nazis were working on? Were they something they had retrieved from aliens somehow or another and were using them for their own? You have to remember, the Germans were way more advanced than the Americans were at the turn of the last century, or the century before last now, I guess I should say. They were way more advanced than we were, probably 30, 40 years ahead of the Americans. So it might have even been longer than that as far as we know.
I have a question here for you. This one's from David. He asks, are you still seeing triangles or getting reports of them along the Gulf Coast corridor?
You know, it's interesting you brought that up because just before we left to go to New Jersey, we had seen one right outside of what's the name of it? Dolphin Island. Actually, it's not Dolphin Island. It's across from Dolphin Island. Fairhope, Alabama. I'm sorry. This is Fairhope, Alabama, which is on the eastern side of Mobile Bay. Actually, if you ever get to go to this town, guys, I'm telling you, this sounds like going back in time somewhere, man. They got little flowers on every corner, and flowers in front of the stores, and flowers in the middle of the streets, and orchestras playing at sunset over the Gulf of Mexico and things like that. It's a really interesting place, by the way. But it's another little bedroom community I'm doing research on because I got experiences like Gulf Breeze, but opposite. So we've been going down there a lot. It's an interesting place, but they still report them pretty regularly down here. Triangles get reported on a pretty regular basis. You've got what we call the corridor that runs from. It's kind of weird. You've got Eglin Air Force Base, Herbert Field, and I forgot the name of the other Air Force Base, which is a little further down. They start up in there somewhere. This is a huge area. I mean, there's just ungodly amounts of acreage there that has nothing on it that you can't even see. And when you look at Eglin from the air on a map or even on Google Earth, you'll notice that there's all kind of old abandoned runways with elevators by them and stuff. And so there's a lot of area out there. You could be having UFOs out there and black triangles. But anyway, make a long story short, they pop up from there. They'll usually jet up. They'll usually jet up through the middle of the state in Florida because there's nothing there but woods and swamp. They'll jump Interstate 10, and they'll follow Interstate 10 all the way to where Stennis NASA facility is. Well, there's nothing north of Interstate 10 from Florida to Louisiana. It's just all woods and forests and stuff like that. I mean, there's a couple of towns and stuff, but nothing of any real consequence. And so it's a real thinly populated area. Well, when they get to Stennis, they take a straight down. They go almost down to where Michoud facility is, which is another NASA facility. And then they shoot straight back across the Gulf. And the way we know from the Gulf is because we get fishermen sightings of black triangles flying around out there. More so than anything else that we get sightings of along that particular area. And they just kind of... And, you know, at first I thought, okay, what are they doing? Now that they're still doing it, I'm kind of wondering because, I mean, they can't still be testing these things. I guess they could still be testing them. I don't know. It just seems like a long time because we broke this story 10 years ago, 11 years ago. And I'm pretty sure they were flying before that, so I'm wondering why they still do it. I guess it's like practice, like stop and goes, just like we do in the Navy today. I'm not sure why, but they do still seem to be doing it. And it seems to be, matter of fact, if you live along the Gulf Coast, I'll tell you a little secret. Mondays, Tuesdays, Sundays, Wednesdays, around in the summertime, probably around 8:30, 9 o'clock till about 12 o'clock, you can see them up in there. And pay attention. Go out by the Stennis facility off of Highway 49, not Highway 49, Highway 190, where it runs into Interstate 10. As you approach the NASA facility, you can park off to the left side. It's pitch black out there, pitch black. So you can see the stars really well. Just watch till you can't see the stars anymore. You'll be surprised. You'll be sitting there looking up, and all of a sudden you'll just notice this big black triangle. Nothing else. No lights, no nothing. It's just floating on over. Now, when they're moving at speeds moving, they have lights that actually flash, and you can actually see engine traces. But when they're just, they kind of just float a lot of times. They just kind of like, they achieve the speed they're going to go, and they just kind of float along. Somehow or another, they're canceling out the effect of gravity or magnetic fields because they're just moving along. And it's kind of cool to watch them. But you'll be laying on your car looking up, and here comes one over the top of you, and it just keeps on going. It just ignores you. I'm sure they know we're there, but they just go on by. And literally, I mean, hundreds of people have gone out there and seen them. So if you're out in those areas at those times of night, you get a good chance of seeing them. And if you're on the Gulf early in the mornings, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, you have a good chance of seeing them.
Well, didn't you and Linda get some video of one of these objects? And if so, when the heck do I get to see it?
Well, we got some pretty good videos and stuff. We got a lot of video of a lot of things, actually. Now, I need to take some time one day, or actually 1 week, and go through it all and maybe get it all on the web. Because there's actually quite a lot of interesting footage, like the guy walking across the street in front of the car. That was just freaking wild. The only thing that I can't find that got lost was that one from the old church, that thing that was walking through the church. That was freaky as hell. But, yeah, we still got a lot of good video. I still got the original clips. On the Alien Enigma site, ladies and gentlemen, there's a saucer that Linda and I filmed in Bar Beach, Florida, back, I think it was like 98 or 99. And there's a clip, there's 2 photos up there. But that actually comes from the videotape. You can see this thing flickering, right? You can just see the lights flickering back. It's off about 175 yards from where Lynn and I stand. It's actually on Eglin Air Force Base on the beach, and you can see this thing, and we could see the lights moving around on the bottom. It's www.alienenigma.org or .com. I think I own both of them, but it's somewhere on one of the picture pages, and you can see it on there. What he did is we were watching the video, and I would freeze the video and take a picture of the picture. That's before we have the technology we have today. One day I'll actually put it up and drop it onto my computer, play it, crop it, photo it, and take it out and make it all pretty for everybody. But that's back in the old days. So I just took a picture of it on the big screen TV. I had it on a 70-inch TV, so I could zoom the camera in and get a shot of it while it was in still motion. When you first look at it, it kind of looks like a triangle, but it's not. It's actually a saucer, and it's a pretty damn big saucer, too. But we got that down there, along with some other anomalous photos that we were taking down there. I was looking through photos the other day. I didn't realize it, but we have photos on top of photos on top of photos with crap in them. I was taking one. I was playing around one night a couple of weeks ago. We were up in Mississippi in the fog playing around. I was making orb photos, okay, to aggravate my friends. So, you know how I am about them orbs. So I'm taking pictures of the fog. It's like orb heaven, man. I mean, we're in orb heaven. I got orbs going all over something. All of a sudden, in the middle of orbs, there's one solid red one in the middle of all of them. Don't know where the hell it came from. Don't know what the hell it was. Still don't know what the hell it is. But it was interesting because there was nothing out there but darkness. Nothing. There was no light source, no nothing. And this thing showed up in the photo. Don't know what it is. It's kind of cool. Doesn't mean anything, but it's kind of cool. But we got lots of little stuff like that, too. I mean, there's literally just, I've gotten so lazy, though, because I'm so busy with other stuff. It's hard for me to take the time to go through it. I was looking through photos. Matter of fact, we're driving up to New Jersey. All of a sudden, 3 Chinooks, black ones, no markings. I'm like, what the hell? Come right over. We got a picture of them. So we're coming back. We're in Virginia. Two black Hueys coming. I mean, they came so close to the car, they rocked the car as they went over. Got a picture of them. Got to Mobile, not Mobile, but someplace in northern Alabama. All of a sudden, here comes 2 more. All of them, you can see them for yourselves. None of them have any markings. They're all black. Don't have no idea what was going on, why they were flying around, why we seen them. I got to tell you, there's some place we stayed in Virginia. I thought we checked into the Bates Motel. I really did. This was a weird place, guys. It was just weird. I'm telling you, I even put the gun next to the bed. I was kind of like, don't know about this place. I'm not going to mention his name because I don't want to get sued. But still. I didn't tell you either. You know, the very first time I went up to D.C., I drove up there with Linda and George, and we picked up Side Poet on the way up there, Joyce. And bringing Joyce home, we ran through a blizzard. I mean, a serious blizzard. And so I'm thinking, Virginia just doesn't like me. Well, we're coming back. We're driving through Virginia, right? And we just got in the state, too. Man, it starts raining. It's just like storm. Like, all of a sudden, it starts hailing the size of golf balls on my brand-new freaking car, man. I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. So I just punched it up to about 90 and blew through the storm till we got out of it. I was like, you got to be kidding me. They're trying to kill me in the top of some mountain in Virginia. And then I was telling Linda, I said, when it rains this hard, there's usually not fog, and I realized it wasn't fog, it was clouds. We were actually driving through the clouds because we were so high up in the air. I'm like, damn. I said, that's it. I'm not driving anymore up here. I'm flying from now on. That's just it. It's safe. Plus, if we would have left 8 hours later than we did going up, we would have caught all those tornadoes in Mississippi and Alabama. We only missed them by, I think it was like 9 hours we missed them by. And then, originally we had talked about staying in New York for 2 days when we came. If we would have, we'd have been driving through the tornadoes last night. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I think we're going to stick to airplanes for a while. It's safer driving out to in y'all's guys' area. It just seems to be a safer ride for some reason. That part of the country, going up through Virginia and Maryland, all that, they have weather just fierce. Come on, dog, where you going to go, man? You want to be on the radio with me and D? Come on.
It must be Charlie.
No, that's Max. He decided he wanted to sit on my lap over here. I don't know. It was a weird drive though, but we didn't have any. As far as I know, we didn't have any like Mystery and Mrs. Times or, anything along those lines. At least as far as I could tell, it was 19 hours and a half there, 19 hours and a half back.
Well, when that conference starts up here in the Phoenix area, here this was upcoming February, I think it is. You guys are going to have to come here to the Phoenix area for that one.
I'm petitioning, what's his name? I want to speak there. I'm going to send him
Maurizio?
Yeah, I'm sending him a thing. He's probably mad because I'm writing articles. He's asked me like 9 times to write articles for him. I told Mauricio, I'm not a writer, man. I said, you want me to put on an audio cassette and send it to you? I ought to send him what I think. I seen somebody had done it. He asked me to do a review on, not Taken. What was that one? The Fourth Kind. And I seen the review they did. On the review they did on what went on like bad, but it really didn't, express what was going on there.
It was pure Hollywood.
Yeah, it was pure Hollywood. But the point I wanted to make about that is, yes, it was pure Hollywood, but there are scenes in that movie. If you're a contactee, you kind of were taken back. It's not that they were real or even portrayed the way they should have been portrayed, but there are particular scenes in that movie. Even I was kind of like, whoa. It just kind of threw me back. But the rest of the movie was, for lack of a better word of saying, it was garbage. It wasn't even that it was a bad movie. It wasn't a good movie. It wasn't a bad movie. It was just that, the way it was hyped up and the way they tried to sell it like the Blair Witch Project on the internet just didn't work. And frankly, it was kind of a waste of everybody's time. But there was some spots in there that I have to say were, somebody did some homework as far as these some things that go on in abductions. And definitely, one thing I can tell you, if you watch The Fourth Kind, when you see them doing the regression, hypnosis stuff, that tells you right there, that's not what you do. You see, that's a good movie for that matter of fact.
David and I were both saying that that's a perfect example of the wrong way to go about it.
It's a really good example of what you should not do in a hypno session. And I think we may use that as a training tool. I may say that might be our new training tool. This is what you don't do when you're doing a regression, because frankly, they blew it. And there can be dangers when doing abductions, research like that. People need to be careful. I tell everybody, look, first off, why bother remembering the dreams, the memories between 11 and 28? Most of what goes on there, you don't want to know what happened anyway. It's just not something you really want to know about it if you can get around it. So why bother with those memories? And the rest of them, I say take your time and see how much you can recover on your own. Get with some of the core groups or some of the support groups and see what you can find on your own before you do hypnosis. And then even then, if you're going to use hypnosis, which I'm not totally against, it's just I think it needs to be handled very specifically. First time you do it, you ask the person to tell you about an account on a day or a time or a week or something. Tell you forward and backward, and then stop. Take the videotape, the audio tape, sit down with the people, and go over and formulate a line of questions that doesn't involve things like using words like extraterrestrials or aliens or spaceships or flying saucers.
Or UFOs.
Or UFOs. These are all no words. You could say, well, you were talking about something you seen standing there. Could you describe what you saw standing there, Let them describe in their words. Was it gray? Well, what color was it? You don't ask it if it was gray. You say, what color was it? And then they describe. That way, at least the knowledge that's coming out their head is from their own head. It's not from suggesting what you've done. And I think that is the biggest crime in ufology today is how many of these poor contactees have had just, bad hypnotherapy done to them. Look at David Jacobs and the Emma Woods thing. This is turning into an unbelievable mess.
Tell me about it.
Oh, it is. A matter of fact, I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday about another contactee, kind of very famous one. I'm not going to mention her name on air, but we were talking about it the other day, and she was saying, should somebody get involved and help out David? I said, I'm not getting involved in this in any way. I said, I think they're both wrong here. I think they were both guilty. So I'm staying out of it. It's because I don't know what else you can do for it. I listen. Matter of fact, ladies and gentlemen, because I know he's got like a minute and a half before we got to go to break. But while I'm thinking about this, Emma Woods put not all, but a lot of the phone calls, made them available on the internet, so you can actually listen to the real phone call between David Jacobs and her, and come to your own conclusions on what should be done. That's why I'm staying out of it, because originally I was thinking, no, David, and then when I heard the phone calls, I said, nope, I'm out of this one.
we're not even going to comment on it. We're just going to stay out of it and leave it at that. Because, frankly, when you listen to it, you're going to figure that, both people may have made mistakes. And in all fairness, guys, this is abduction research. I may not always agree with David Jacobs, but there's going to be mistakes made. All you can do is man up when you make a mistake and correct it and move on. That's all you can do. And don't fight it when you know you're wrong, because you are. Just move on. I aggravate people about Roswell, but I tell people all the time I'm not the expert. So, just take it for what it was, Joe running off the face, and move on. That's what you got to do. But yeah, I think
that's what I do anyway.
Well, yeah, but CD knows. Because, guys, I'm not. And I'll tell you, somebody asked me at the conference in New Jersey, why here? You're the foremost expert in alien abduction research. Well, no, that's not even close to true. Okay? Expert. There is no expert on alien abduction. Nowhere. And regardless if it's me or anybody else working for this organization, we are going to make mistakes because, frankly, no one has done this before. Okay? So the only thing you can do is hope that we stay honest to each other and correct it when we make mistakes. And most of the time we do. You can go back and listen to things I said 10 years ago. You will notice that some of this stuff has definitely changed because, frankly, I learned things that I didn't know 10 years ago. And, when you do, you have to change stuff. It's like the Betty and Barney Hill case. That's why I changed it because, frankly, it's better now. But anyway, I know we got to go to break.
Anyway, on that note, we need to go to a break.
I'll let you take us out, Dave. Take us out.
Okay. So we'll be back here in, about 8-9 minutes?
Yep.
With more on Eye to the Sky, the UFO Synopsis, with my host, Joe Montaldo, here on the UFO Paranormal Radio Network.
Conference 2010, the weekend of May 8 and 9 at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C. Is the U.S. government withholding the truth about extraterrestrials engaging the human race? Could formal disclosure about extraterrestrials take place during the Obama administration? This and more will be covered at X Conference 2010 at the National Press Club, 2 blocks from the White House and 12 blocks from the Capitol. The conference will include lectures, an awards banquet, a speaker's cocktail party, and, oh yes, a special luncheon presentation with yours truly. Come learn why, when it comes to UFOs, it's no longer just about lights in the sky. It's about lies on the ground. The National Press Club is just 2 blocks from Metro Center, and there are 24 hotels nearby. The event website, x-conference.com. That's x-conference.com, or call the Paradigm Research Group, 202-215-832, 215-832.
Welcome to Eye to the Sky, the UFO Synopsis. Now here's your host, D'Andrew.
And welcome back to Eye to the Sky, the UFO Synopsis, here on the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, also broadcast live on UPRN 105.5 New Orleans. I'm your host, D'Andrew, and tonight we've been talking with Joe Montaldo. And as I said earlier in the program, I'm going to take just like a minute or so to get this off my chest. Here lately, Arizona has been bashed and thrashed over this new immigration law. And all these other states and even Mexico are boycotting tourism and commerce with the state. Well, the economy in the state is so bad right now that I personally have been laid off twice in the last 11 months. Now, I think it's stupid the way everything is going about this law. It does not protect the border. All it does is cause racial profiling, a lot of demonstrations, and a lot of wasted time. Now, not everybody in this state is for this law, myself included, and a lot of other people I know. And, it's just bad, period. I can't even go into how much it irritates me. with what is going on here. Okay? Please, people, don't hate the residents of this state. Okay? The residents had nothing to do with enacting this law. We weren't even asked to vote on it. It was just shoved through the local governmental process and signed by the governor. And the governor wasn't even elected. She was the lieutenant governor and just stepped into office after Janet Napolitano went to D.C. to join Obama's cabinet. Okay? So don't go hating on us residents here in Arizona, is all I'm saying. And please, for the sake of the people who do live here and work here, really don't go bashing the residents, okay? We had nothing to do with it. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. Okay, Joe, back to UFOs and abductions. And look, I'm going to try and corral our strain off of the subject.
You gotta express your views. That's one of the reasons to have a radio show.
Okay, well, like I said, I try to keep politics out of it, but this is something that is, personally affecting my livelihood.
Yeah.
I mean, the economy here is so bad. I mean, I'm out job hunting again for the second time in 11 months.
Which is always a joy in this economy. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day in Oregon. He's like, Joe, man, you had a good job, and same job for like 20-something years. He tells me that day, he said, man, I'm looking for a job. And he said, when I walk in and tell everybody, I work for a company for X amount of years, they want to know why I'm not retiring, because they did pay him to retire early. And he's like, well, I don't retire. But everybody said, well, man, you make too much money. We can't hire you. There ain't no way. He said, no, I'm willing to work for less. He's like, no, it's not going to happen. Which is, BS, because somebody's missing out on a really good employee. But at least he does have some money saved. He's not destitute. But I don't know. The country's in deep crap and don't show any signs of getting any better. It's not as bad down here in the Gulf area because, we're still rebuilding from Katrina. So we've got kind of like Katrina still made jobs down here. And new businesses coming down, new people moving down. So a lot of people escaping the West and the North, and some of the worst economy areas are moving down here now. So we're still kind of growing, but the rest of the country is literally getting their butts handed to them. It's just, but have faith, guys. We're Americans. We always bounce back. So it may take a little time, but we always bounce back.
I'm going to steer us off of that now, because because the more I think about it, the angrier I get, and I don't want to do that. I don't want it to bleed over into the program.
Yeah.
But I'm going to ask you a question that we had asked a lot of the speakers at I think it was the 2005 X conference. In your opinion, what is the current state of ufology?
Ooh, damn, Dee, that's a question and a question there. It's I find that abduction research in ufology has improved immensely, and I find that it's a much more open and much more acceptable part of ufology. But ufology itself, I find that I initially was wrong. I used to say all the time there's no money in ufology. I was actually wrong about that. There is some money in ufology for some people, more than I ever actually thought there was, which was kind of disappointing when I found this out. So I find some interesting things here. I do see some good stuff happening in the field, especially when it comes to abduction research and even nuts and bolts research. I see some good stuff in the field, and I see MUFON in the middle of a restructuring, which brings hope that they may actually get back and become a contributing, functioning part of this, which they are not right now. But we can hope and see that there's some hope there. But then there's a lot of the same old. I mean, I attend a lot of conferences, so does a lot of other people, and I'm disappointed in the fact that a lot of times I go, I see a lot of the same faces, which is not so bad for me because I'm friends with a lot of these people, so I kind of like seeing them. I was like, hey, man, how you been? I ain't seen you in a couple months. What you been up to? But if you're a paying person, who's paying, $200, $300, $400 to attend a conference, not including airfare and hotels, and most people spend about $1,000, I can see where, you're not getting what you're paying for. I've been to several conferences where I've seen the same speakers, maybe not speaking exactly the same thing, but speaking close to it. And then I've been to a lot of conferences where, frankly, there's speakers there speaking about other people's work, which I never did understand that. With the exception of one guy, because he's in England. I really don't understand why anybody else would be speaking about someone else's work when you could get the person whose work it was to speak. That always kind of confuses me. I got to be honest with you all about that. And I have seen some new things come to the field, like Travis Walton admitting that he has other stuff going on and stuff like that. So I've seen some good, I've seen some bad, but I haven't seen ufology get to where, one, it works with each other. There's still a lot of in-house fighting, a lot of backbiting, a lot of backstabbing, a lot of things along those lines that are not being resolved. There's still what I like to call the good old boys club. Actually, there's 3 good old boys clubs now. Thanks to ICAR, we kind of busted 2 of them up a little bit, so they kind of had to diversify a little bit. But technically, there's 3 good old boys clubs. There's the old guys that hang out that are pretty much gets invited to everything, and then there's a new group that's well, not really a new group anymore. They've been around 5 or 10 years. And then there's the people like us who are out there, getting invited to speak and stuff like that. And there's a lot of new people getting into the field, but frankly, there's not enough. There's a lot of research out there that is not getting to the average conference goer because they want to bring this one or that. Now, show of hands, I like to catch Linda Moulton Howe occasionally when she's on Coast to Coast. Do I want to see her at a conference? Not as a speaker, okay? I got to be honest with you. See her as a friend, fine. Yeah, I'd like to talk to her. Hey, how you been, Linda? What you up to? But as a speaker, no, I don't want to see her. There's a lot of these speakers like this. I don't want to see. It's like me, okay? I'll be honest with you. I never do the same lecture twice, which is hell on me, by the way. All right, I will never do the same lecture twice. If the lecture I did at X Conference last year will not be the lecture I do at 2010 this year. The 2 lectures I just gave in New Jersey will not be the lectures I give at the 2010 conference. It'll be something entirely different. And the reason why is because you can get my old lectures, and you can listen to them yourself on a CD. You can buy them from someone. Eventually, I'll put them up for free where you can get them on the, like the Roswell and the Mill Lab one are on the Internet where you can get them for free. Eventually, I'll get the ones from Jersey, and I'll put them up, and you'll be able to get them on the Paranormal Radio Network for free. And so you'll be able to hear them. So there's no reason for me to repeat myself. If I'm going to go lecture at a conference, I want to lecture on something new now. I have to be fair, though, okay, because this isn't always fair. I have friends in the field that lecture at least once a month, sometimes twice a month. Coming up with a new lecture like that is tough. So what I would do in their cases is I would have like 4 or 5 lectures made, and then I would, flip-flop between them, between different lectures. You might want to do this one in New York, and this one in New Jersey, and this one in D.C., and this one out at Laughlin, well, out in Phoenix. It's just not going to be at Laughlin anymore, but something along those lines. Personally, I got to say, I've heard a lot of repeat lectures, and that's why a lot of times when I'm attending the conferences, I'm not actually sitting in the lectures. And in all fairness, I think the field needs to be a little bit tighter. Yeah, I hear that too. I'm not sure what that is. I think the field needs to be a little bit tighter on what it considers to be legitimate research. I'm still having trouble getting past all the channelers, which I get in trouble with every time I meet up with them. I get trouble over the channelers. I got trouble in New Jersey over the channelers. They just don't like me. It's not.
I agree with you on this channeling aliens BS. But now you said how you feel about the current state of ufology. What do you see as being a way to improve ufology today? What do you think needs to be done?
What I think needs to be done is you should take one person from the top 10 UFO organizations, put them together to form a basic ethics committee. And when I mean this, I mean like an ethics committee. What I mean by this, I don't mean any leaders of any organizations, by the way. So that would exclude people like me, or Cliff Clifford or someone like that. I'm talking about maybe the number 2 or number 3 person in an organization being put on a board, and then that way they can make recommendations to conferences and stuff like that, because frankly, these are the guys who really know what's going on. We're the ones out doing the research. We're the ones that are up to date on all the new stuff. We're the ones that know who's lying and who's telling the truth. And for the conference presenters, the radio shows and things like that, you would get a much better group of information. But by saying this, this could also be a bad thing. Okay, it's one of these things that if everybody's honest and pure at heart, it would be one of the best things that ever happened to ufology. But then again, if there became competition between the organizations or things along those lines, then everybody would start trying to push their own agendas, and of course, it would be a big snowball piece of you-know-what. So we need some guidance, though. There needs somebody, or not some one person, because there's no one person that can step up in the field that's going to get everybody's respect. There's some of us that are going to pull more than others, but there's nobody. I can tell you, there's nobody in the field. There's no one person in the field that I would follow blindly. Let me put it that way. And there are a dozen or so people that I would take advice from because of the amount of research they've done and the stuff they've done, if they were given advice as a group, not as an individual. For me, it's different because I'm kind of tempered. If I do a new lecture that y'all haven't heard yet, as soon as y'all hear it, anything anybody finds that they don't feel is kosher with what we do, and I'll hear about it, and of course that gets corrected immediately. So it's different for us than it is for a lot of other people. MUFON don't do things the way we do it. MUFON's people just go out and do whatever the hell they want, and there's no consequences for when they go off, and nobody says anything, and nobody cares. Matter of fact, you've seen what happened to James. When James started tapering his views on not agreeing with the rest of ufology, they got rid of it. It's one of these things. We have to learn how to police this field as a group, not as iCard, and we need to do it as a group. Because we get, unfortunately, we get a lot of emails about, why don't y'all do something about this one, or why don't y'all do something about that one, and I'm thinking, because it's not our job. Yes, we have more voice than a lot of people in the field because we're a big group, but still, it's not our job to go around saying, that's a good one, that's a bad one, that's a good one. We're an abduction research organization that works with sightings, alien abductions, and a few other minor things, and that's what we do. And we're not, E.T. policemen, I guess I'm trying to say. So we've got to find a way to get some guidance in the field. When John Mack was alive, there was some focal guidance, at least in the abduction research, with him being alive. Stanton Friedman does help some of us to want to stay more legitimate, along with Ted Phillips, to the nuts and bolts UFO research. Then there's a few others besides that, but see, that's what I'm saying. If you could get these guys as in a working group, then you might, sorry about that, pup, you might get a little bit better feel, because frankly, ufology is its own worst enemy, and that's all I can say, because I've attended some conferences, where I'm sitting there listening to a lecture, and I'm thinking, oh my God, people are listening to this. And it's not bothering me that people are listening to me, it's bothering me that people are buying what they're saying. And I have to go, you got to be kidding me. It's like Source A. I still can't believe how many people believe that crap. It floors me. And it's obviously in total BS, but yet they believe it. And if they would take 10 minutes to do any real research, they would find out, no, there's nothing believable there, but they don't. It's more about let's just believe blindly. So, all of that needs to be corrected. And the only way that can be corrected and be accepted by the field is if it's done by a group. Because if I get up there and start saying, yeah, there's a bunch of people in ufology that will agree with it, but there's a bunch that won't. It's that simple. And if Richard does it, or Peter, or anybody else for that matter, Stanton, or anybody gets up there and does it, it'll be the same thing. There'll be some that agree and some don't. We need a group that can span the different opinions without, causing more grief than it's already there. So it's going to be a tough call. It's going to be a tough field. We do finally get credit, ICAR, I should say, finally gets credit for changing the abduction research. And, when Dee knows this, and anybody who's a member of this organization knows this, 10 years ago, in 2000 or 1999 when I first started doing the air thing, this was not acceptable in the field. There was maybe one contactee talking, and even they were catching flack. Now contactees have a voice. And not only do they have a voice, but they have backing. If they get up there and say something, they have backing. They have organizations behind them. They have people behind them. And we're not taking the BS. We want the truth. And we're not taking people attacking them and abusing them and just outright, Now they know there's reprisals, and they know that we'll let them on the station. Come on, we'd let Farrah come on and talk about a laptop for an hour. Because somebody stole a laptop. So, they have recourse now. They have a place they can come and say, well, you know what? I got blank, blank, and blank, and I got a place to talk about it now. So it's different. There's well, when they do something wrong, now there's a recourse for everybody to get involved. So it's easier. You know, the abduction field is working better. Nuts and bolts ufology is pretty solid. There are some other things out there, and I'm not going to mention their names, that I have to wonder how they got mentioned in certain things. Well, I mean, somebody wrote to me the other day about UFO hunters. You know, I haven't talked to Bill in about 2 years, I think. And I was thinking about it. I said, well, you know, I haven't even talked to Bill. Can't really comment on the show. I said, I know it's off the air now. And they were, how did you like it in general? I said, I only ever watched 3 episodes. I said, it's not really enough to base a conclusive opinion on. I said, I didn't find the way they were doing it to appeal to me personally, so I quit watching them, which is a true statement. You know, it wasn't.
Personally, I liked the show myself.
Yeah, and a lot of people did, you know. But see, I didn't dislike the show, so I wasn't out there dissing the show. It wasn't that I disliked it. I just didn't find the chemistry between them 3 guys work for me personally. It just didn't. You know, it was like that other UFO abduction show that came. Well, I fell out of my chair laughing when I seen that one come on the air. I really did. I was bawling. I was like, come on. The one, well, it was called UFO Hunters too, but it was they did abductions, and they went up to that place in Connecticut or where the hell it was, and the guy was in the. Oh, anyway, it was just hilariously funny. I think it only lasted like 2 episodes, and it got pulled. So that's one.
Yeah. Oh, you mean UFOs over Earth?
Yeah, I don't know what it was. I know there was. I thought
that was
it was
the MUFON one.
Yeah, I don't know. Whatever it was, it was funny. It didn't have no business being on the air, and it was the same to see Bill's show get pulled because at least it was out there, you know, putting it on. I don't know if it was really representing the field in a good light or a bad light. Like I didn't watch it long enough.
In my opinion, it was pretty close to UFOs 101. You know, just kind of helping to educate the people who don't really know a lot about the subject.
Well, that's a good thing because we need 101. I mean, I
agree.
I mean, I know you and I don't want to do 101 anymore. And finally, I do understand this. Dee and I used to talk about this a long time ago because we used to get mad at people who didn't want to do 101, okay? Unfortunately, 10, 12 years later, we understand why they don't want it. Come on, guys, you can only talk 101 so much, and then you got to be like, what the hell? Come on.
Well, basically, when you stop and think about it, even doing, you know, me doing this program and you doing your own program, UFO Undercover, it still boils down to 101. We're just doing it in a different manner, getting other people's work out there to show, you know, hey, look, there's credible researchers out there really doing good work. And
they're good. But I noticed.
And I need to break in and let you know we've got a couple of questions here, some questions stacking up here. This first one is from Rydell, and Rydell would like to know if you think Mill Labs should be brought up more and more at these conferences.
Okay. You know, it's interesting you bring that up because something happened today that makes me not want to talk about that particular subject. But by saying that, yes, I do think, I'm not going to get into anything else than that, but I do think that there should be more attention drawn to the subject, and I do think people like Melinda Leslie and Randy Copang will draw more attention to the subject. Joe has worked in the Mill Lab field a lot, but Joe is really, I'm going to be honest with y'all, Joe's kind of moving out of Mill Lab research. Not for any particular reason. I did what I wanted to do with the Hills case, and it's really been accepted well in ufology today, which really tickles me, I got to tell y'all. So that makes me happy, and the fact that it's being accepted now makes me happy as well. But you have to understand something. I am not a military abduction researcher. I am advanced alien abduction research. That's what I do, and that's what most of the people in the organization do, and Dee and a few others that do the nuts and bolts, and it keeps us nice and leveled in the field. And we do have friends that work on Mill Labs, so you know, I wish them all the best, and I will contribute information to them from time to time when I can, and anything that helps them out that I will. Because I had been asked to address how Mill Labs work, which I touched on in Karen's show last night. I'm not going to get into it tonight, but I touched it on in Karen's show last night. But I'm leaving that for a new group that's coming up. You know, you've got to leave stuff for the other people getting in the field as well. I mean, Joe can't address everything. You know that, huh, David? Smarty pants. Don't forget, I know where you live. I will send the Grays to probe you, buddy.
Hey, that's my man now. So go trying to share him around with other things.
Well, you know. Hey, a little Sharon's good. That's a little bit good. Let me get a sip of coffee here. But
Okay, we have another question here from our virtual auditorium. This one is from New York Lily, and she asks, Joe, what would you suggest to do to keep UFO organizations from being infiltrated by those who want to bring them down, like what happened to NICAP?
Well, it's one of the reasons ICAR requires a non-disclosure agreement, because it gives us a venue. Somebody asked me if we do that to control our directors. Not exactly. We just do that to keep them from talking about cases or particular material out there. Now, I'm going to tell you a little secret. The major difference between ICAR and organizations like MUFON and that one in Japan is they're 501(c)(3)s, which means they have to be visible to the public. In other words, you should be able to walk into MUFON's office on any day and look at all their records, all their expenditures, all their donations, all their members, the whole 9 yards. So they really have no control of what goes on. Ours is a much different beast. This is a privately owned, privately funded organization. We're not required to tell the government what we're doing in any shape, form, or fashion, which makes it a lot harder for them. And then, since only D and I really can assign anybody a directorship, and that's the truth of the matter. Now, there's other people that can assign assistant directors and so on and so forth. You know, directors can assign their own assistants and their own investigators, but no one can assign a state director except for D or I. That's it, or a national director. It only can come from one of the two of us. And frankly, I don't think you're going to fool us if you're from the government. I really don't. And if you do, it ain't going to be for long. So you're not going to find them infiltrating organizations like this, and it's mainly because we're just stricter. MUFON could be a lot stricter. But MUFON's not interested in strict. It was interested in money, and it's what got its butt in trouble. Granted, I'd like to have all 20,000 of our members paying me $40. Man, look, ICAR could do. I could go pick up D in the ICAR van. We could be touring around the country, chasing ET down. But no, we don't do that. And there's reasons why we don't do that. And it's mainly to keep everything. And it also allows me and her and a few others in the organization to dictate what gets publicly made. MUFON has no control over what's being said. Their directors can go off and get on TV and say whatever they want. They can go on and say anything they want. Our directors can go lecture. Our directors can go get TV. But if it's an ongoing case, they can't mention the people's names. They can't tell them where they live. A lot of times they won't even be able to tell them what state they're in. And that is for protection for both the investigators and the contactees. So you don't want infiltrated organizations like MUFON, then you have to get strict, and you really do. And MUFON got infiltrated shortly after Walt Anders gave up the organization. It may have been before that, okay? In all fairness, it may have been before that. But they got infiltrated, and they've been infiltrated hard, and they have become an ineffective organization, period. They're good at hosting conferences. Other than that, and I asked this to Cliff Clifford, what have they done other than host conferences? I mean, the Stevensville thing was funny. I didn't see, all they did was make a media farce out of it. I didn't see where they did any real hardcore research or come up with any hardcore answers. So I'm thinking, what the hell? You know,
and then the problem with NICAP is it got infiltrated by the CIA, which literally took it right out of Donald Kehoe's hands. They ousted him, and then within just a few months later, they completely destroyed the organization, and it went down the drain.
And see, that's another thing, guys. You can't vote me out. It doesn't work that way. Now, I can step down and somebody else can be voted in, but, that's just the way that works. Once you're the boss, you're the boss. That's just how it is. MUFON and NICAP and a lot of the other organizations, that's what happened. They were trying to do the thing right. And I got to give them credit for this, because that's the way it should have been done. And initially, we talked about making ICAR a 501c3 so we could get into other things and ask for donations and things like that. But frankly, the limitations it was going to put on us as an organization just wasn't going to work for all of us. And then that could have meant that, I could have got a bunch of directors in, and 5 years down the line, the organization that D&I and a few others created could have fell into somebody else's hands. And y'all know about how much I would have put up with that, so we just didn't go that way.
Okay, we need to do a little bit of clarification here. Some individuals in here are thinking that you're the head of MUFON.
Oh,
okay, we need to clarify that. No, Joe is the international director for the International Community for Alien Research, also known as ICAR. and I am the national director for ICAR. So we're just kind of comparing apples with oranges. Oranges. Oh, man, what's wrong with my mouth tonight?
Clifford Clift is the head of MUFON. And,
yeah.
Nice guy. I talked to him a couple times now. He's okay. We're working on some stuff. And to be honest with you, Dee and I could probably take over MUFON if we really wanted to. We've got enough friends in directors' positions now. I don't know, 15, 18 in directors, maybe 20 of the directors are quite close to us these days.
Well, I've had quite a few researchers from MUFON on my program, you know, and I'm one of these kind of people that if I see someone is doing good quality research, I don't care if it's research for a book or researching a case, such as like the Bucks County, Pennsylvania deal, or the Kokomo deal. You know, I'll get them on and let them tell about their investigation and what they found.
And see, I've had MUFON people on it. It's people, you know, I know y'all hear me pick on MUFON a lot, which I have been lately, but in the old days I used to pick on them a lot. The thing about it is I still have a lot of friends at MUFON, a lot. Y'all be surprised. It's just when I seen the balance, leave Princess alone, shame on you, Ian. But when it got to a point where MUFON just wasn't being effectual anymore for what I was looking for, so you know we moved on. And ICAR does abduction research. We talk about it, we push it. Everybody in the organization is well versed in it. Everybody's dealt with I don't think there's anybody that's a standing, working member of ICAR that hasn't done some kind of abduction research or been involved with it or some shape, form, or fashion. And if we did merge with MUFON or take over MUFON, Dee would be in charge because she does nuts and bolts ufology anyway. And that's what MUFON's supposed to be. It's supposed to be nuts and bolts ufology. That's what it's supposed to be.
Yes, definitely.
You know, and that's what it should be. I mean, they don't need to be in abduction research. They just don't. And frankly, when I was talking with Cliff about this on the air, because he wants us, by the way, to get more involved with what's going on over there, which we will do in the next year or so, in the upcoming year, I should say. You know, when you tell a contactee, well, you got to go see a shrink before I'll even talk to you, well, you pretty much lost that contactee. They're going to tell you, yeah, you know what you can do with yourself, buddy. You know, he's like, you can just kiss my you-know-what, and I'm out of here. And that's pretty much what's going to happen when you tell them that. You know, you might be able to talk a contactee into seeing a shrink after you've done. You've earned their trust and got to know them, and they understand you and trust you, and you're looking for information. Then you can suggest a good psychologist or something like that they could go talk to help verify their case. But right off the bat, before you even know, it's not going to work. I would personally get insulted if they asked me to go see a shrink right off the bat. I'd be like, excuse me? Have you seen one? Why do you want me to see one? You know, it's just one of those things I think was a bad call on their part. We'll see what Clifford is going to do about that. I know he said he's going to bring paranormal more into MUFON.
Oh, please.
And I let that one go. I was a good host. I let that one go. I did. You know, it's something I was talking with Karen about last night. There's been this, I haven't experienced this myself, but there's been this thing I've been hearing a lot of about UFO and paranormal people fighting about. The UFO people don't want paranormal even mentioned in the field. Well, I mean, a
lot of people consider ufology, you know, a form of paranormal research.
And you can technically, you can kind of, because it is not normal. So you know, you could put it in the para area. And I do understand the UFO researchers getting mad about it to an extent, but I don't see where it really matters at this point. I mean, nobody knows what the hell's really going on. We're guesstimating on every damn thing, and I don't see where it matters. I mean, they're not trying to say ET is ghosts. So, and the only one I know that thinks they're demonic possessing is what's his goofy ball face?
I won't even mention his name.
Yeah. Speaking of that, anybody seen Guy Malone lately? I haven't heard or seen nothing from him lately.
Nope, not a. Well,
that's that new wife. Yeah,
last time I saw Guy Malone was at last year's Roswell Festival.
That's that new wife done cracked the whoop on his head.
Actually, I saw her running his booth by herself for a while.
Yeah, that's why the whip got cracked on his head. He probably got she was a sweetie pie. I asked her right out, I said, "What the hell are you seeing him again?" I know it was a real.
I have my next question for you, but this is for me. Where do you see improve? Let me get my brain wrapped around this question. How do you see going about improving abduction research? Not just through ICAR, but through other researchers. How do you see any way of improving it?
Well, it's a good question, and it's something I've been thinking about a lot because I've been working on the new database for ICAR for all of our members. And I was thinking about that. I was thinking if one of our directors or one of our lead investigators decided that someone from another organization, we'll just say MUFON for lack of a choice of words, we could give them access to our database and maybe exchange for access in some of theirs. I think that is a sure way to breach brotherhood and cooperation between the organizations and improve the overall quality of abduction research. But I also think, too, especially in ICAR's case, I have to say this, I think we need to really train our directors and investigators at a little higher level than they're being trained at. And guys, don't take this out the wrong way because I love all of y'all, but personally I think there's room for improvement in our organization in several areas. But hey, that goes with me too. I'm not hating on everybody. I just think there's room for improvement. And I think some of that improvement really needs to start with me and some of the training methods or some of the training that needs to be done in our organization. And I think organizations like this one and MUFON and other ones need to start to set an example. Like MUFON used to. They used to be the shining, and NICAP too, by the way. They used to be the shining example of what you should do if you were going to be a researcher in the field. Now, granted, that's not true anymore. But, it could be true again, and if you can do that. And then, and then we need to talk about the people who really are doing it, like Ted Phillips. I know Dee's had him on several times. And what's his name? Is it Giorgio?
Giorgio Tsoukalos?
I think that's
the ancient alien.
I think I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's him. But people who are really doing the really good trace case evidence and the really good ufology evidence, they need to be talked about. Not heard of once a year. Because I was thinking about when Ted was on my show last and he was on Dee's. I was thinking, where else has he been? I haven't seen him at any of the conferences. Well, somebody like that should. And that's another thing while we're on this. I think the conference presenters are missing out on a chance to really change their audience and the size of their audiences by incorporating more stuff into it, meaning that, like we'll use Vegas. Vegas is crash retrieval. Come on. How much can you honestly talk about crash retrieval? 1 year, really. Let's be honest about it. After that, you've pretty much spent all the material on crash material except for stuff that may be being made up as it's being added or something. But frankly, that's really all you can talk about 1 year. So you could have like one person there, 2 people there doing crash retrieval, 1 or 2 people there doing nuts and bolts UFO sightings and trace cases, 1 or 2 contactees, 1 or 2 investigators in the field, and then you've got a nice mix for the people to come listen to. And the people who are there for the contactees will listen to the nuts and bolts research. The people who are there for the nuts and bolts research will listen to the contactee researchers, and you get a nice, smooth cross audience, and you get a much better overall training of not just the researchers, but the audiences themselves. But I don't see that. Most of the time, I either see the same people being booked at the same conferences talking about the same things, or I see people that I have never heard of that have no basis of research in any shape, form, or fashion, and have no idea what they're talking about. I really think a lot of them, it's just shit that came in their head one day, and they said, well, I'm going to be a ufologist. Watch this. Or I'm going to be a paranormalist, whatever you want to call it. Because there's a lot of garbage in the paranormal areas, too. I pick on Taps all the time. I do like to watch them. I like to watch them and the goofy guy, Josh from Destination Truth. I am waiting.
God.
He's a doofball.
Yeah, I agree.
He's a doofball. He is so funny to watch. I'm waiting for like a shark to bite him between the legs or something.
I would like to see some new faces in there. People like, John Venture. I would like to see the guy that wrote Strange Company on, my brain is going nuts here trying to remember people's names here. Keith Chester. I think he did gosh, the guy spent 12 years in the National Archives digging up information on the Foo Fighters, and did a wonderful book full of information on Foo Fighters. I mean, how many researchers do you know that goes into that and of the history?
Favorite subjects.
You know, I mean, you get fresh faces out there with fresh information, and Glenn Means. He's another one I'd like to see on the circuit. I mean, he's done some really good research.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing, and we're not seeing now. You know, we're just not. We're seeing, frankly, the same old, and it gets old. It just does, and you know, it's hard because as a researcher, I get really aggravated because, you know, if I'm spending money to go to a conference, I want to see something I haven't seen, or I want to hear something I haven't heard because, you know, if I'm going to spend, well, like Laughlin, last time I went to Laughlin cost me almost $5,000, but I spent, you know, between airfare and vehicle rentals and casinos and the conference itself. Still, you know, and then I found that conference, you know, at least there were some new speakers there. I got to give them credit for that. It was a little new agey for Joe, but there were new speakers there. I have to be honest with it. And I think their rule of skipping a year before they invite you back, or skipping a couple of years before they invite you back, is a good thing. As a person that's on the lecture tour, trying to get on the lecture tour myself, it's probably not good for you, but I would think a conference, even if you're a really good speaker and you really have new information all the time, I would still think that you should flip-flop your conferences. You know, you should say, okay, I spoke there last year. If I'm going to speak there this year, I need to speak about this, or I just need to wait and go back next year, you know, and speak like that. Because a lot of the presenters can do that. It's just they don't, you know, because I guess they need it for the income or something.
It's possible.
You know?
We have another really good question from our virtual auditorium. This one's from Caldor. He would like to know, why does 3 appear to be a magic number with ETs and contacts?
Yeah, I don't know if it is or if it isn't. I mean, it does come up a lot. The number 3 does come up a lot. I mean, it definitely does. Coincidence, y'all know I don't believe in coincidences, but I'm not sure. You know, at first I thought it was more substantial than it was, because you always heard about the Greys and 3s, or the humans and 3s, or the reptilians and 3s, but I learned that that's kind of a misnomer. You know, yes, there might be 3 Greys that pick you up and bring you on board the ship, but there's probably a couple hundred Greys on the ship. So I think it's kind of been taken out of context. It does show up, though. I mean, it is something that shows up in contact, and it is something that we do run into. But then we also run into stuff like synchronicities, like 111. And I'll give you an example. I've been on this for 2 weeks now. Every time I look at a clock or something, even when I buy stuff at the store, like last night I got something to eat. It was 1313. Got in a card, said 111. Got out a card, said 222. I mean, you know, these are weird things, stuff that's been going on for a few weeks now, too, for us. And but I don't know if it actually means anything. Is it because I just happened to set my mind to look at the clock then, because it's becoming a habit or something? I don't know. It's a hard thing, and then it goes the same thing with the number 3, because I think contactees start to focus in on it, and then they start missing other stuff that's going on in the contact. It's just one of those things. But that's a working theory, guys, and it could mean anything. But 3 does come up. I can't deny that. It does, you know, 3 abductees, 3 contact. I mean, 3 types of. Well, I guess they have the 3 types of aliens, and then they got the 3 aliens in each type. But then sometimes the reptilians only show up with 1 guy, and sometimes the humans only show up with 1 guy. Sometimes the Greys do. So that's what I mean. I don't know if there's any if it actually means anything, or if that's just how it happens to work out.
Okay, we have about 2 minutes left.
Damn, we do.
Yeah. You want to get your websites out and maybe a little bit of a hint of some of your upcoming guests?
You know, good idea, though. I'm going to be on the Paraguay show tonight. I forgot about this until this morning. At 9:05 Central Time, I'll actually be on the Paraguay show on Blog Talk Radio. So I have no idea what he wants to talk about, but I'll be there in about an hour. We'll get November on in a few minutes, and I'll be over there, and y'all can come check it out. I don't like to plug it because, you know, it's on Demi's airtime. Because I don't like competing with my own host. I don't think it's good. It's called the Paraguys. It's on Blog Talk Radio. And I may have it on Facebook. I don't know if I posted it or not. I'll have to check and see. Also, a lot of stuff coming up. I'm going to be on several radio shows. I'll get them all posted and Probably on the iCar site, I'll send the list and get David to post it for me. There's like 10 or 12 appearances I'm doing on different radio shows. And then I will be at D.C. October 22nd, 23rd, 24th. I'll be speaking at the upcoming Contact 2010 conference, where we will be bringing iCar. We'll be bringing contactees with them. And I think one or two of them might actually get to speak, or maybe one, maybe two. I don't know. It's not up to me. I know we will have a bunch of them with us. It'll be up to Stephen who gets to speak, because it is his conference. But I also know that a lot of other abduction researchers will be there. I know Yvonne Smith's been invited, Mary Rodwell's been invited, I think David and Bud have been invited, I think Daryl's been invited, Trav's been invited, Kay's been invited. There's just a lot of people been invited to this conference, and I don't really think you're going to ever see, or there hasn't been a conference like this prior to this one, so y'all should come up and see it. Because of that, though, we're going to be, we got a couple of regular guests coming on in the next few weeks. And next week, I'm going to really kind of be doing an overcap of the thing in D.C. I'm going to probably ask, our New York director to come on with me. Maybe one or two other people who's up there. I might call Karen and ask her if she wants to come on and talk too. But, just kind of overview of that. But then we're going to get in a little bit more on the contactee side, getting ready for the upcoming October conference. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, next week we have Stephen Bessette's X conference. It's being held at the Washington Press Club. Guys, go check it out. If you do, tell him Joe sent you, okay? Give him a thumbs up. Say the old man sent you to come see him. Go check it out. It's going to be a good conference. He's got some good guests there. He really does. So I'm not going to be there this year because I got other stuff going on. But still, y'all go check it out. And I will be back there in D.C., like I said, the 23rd, 24th, 25th. Now, there's some other stuff going on. I'm not quite ready to talk about it yet. A friend of mine's working on, Angela Joyner, is working on some stuff for me, along with some other iCar members that we're trying to put something together for later in the year that's iCar related, which will be a first in itself. So keep your fingers crossed on that, but I know I'm running into Demi's time now, so we better get out of here.
Yes, definitely, Joe. Hey, and I appreciate you coming on and talking with me tonight. I've thoroughly enjoyed this. And unfortunately, that's all the time we have for tonight. I want to thank everyone for tuning in, and also thank all of those who joined us in the Pal Talk Auditorium. And Nina, here in our auditorium, congratulations on the birth of your grandson. That's awesome. Stay tuned for Voice of the People, hosted by November Hansen. Her guest tonight will be Randy Rogers. And please join us again next Saturday for Eye to the Sky, the UFO Synopsis, where my guest will be Frank Warren. Until then, keep an eye to the sky. Good night, everyone.
3:30 in the morning, not a soul in sight. The city's looking like a ghost town on a moonlit summer night. The raindrops on the windshield, there's a storm moving in. He's heading back from somewhere that he never should have been. And the thunder rolls.